All right, and then I'll come back in with the hard polish again. Just sort of clean things up. Because what I don't want is I don't want a lumpy mess here. When you're doing this, it can easily turn into lump sculpt. I want to have very clearly defined regions, very clearly defined platelets. And I want a lot of nice, clean line work. So this is where I start really getting away from the roughness of the clay buildup brush. Blend out these strokes here. Another pass on this that can be very helpful, and I'll take a small area here to completion, is an inflate pass to give some of this roundness and volume. Now that we've kind of flattened it out, we want nice clean volume. Going with the inflate, you want to be careful though because of what inflate does to the geometry. So if you look right now, as I sculpted in this area, some of our lines are warping in and out, and it's getting a little messy, right? And I'll need to work at cleaning that up, and it's just it's inevitable when you're going to come in and start moving some of the stuff out. You know, your mesh is going to fold, it's going to buckle, it's going to warp, but you want to try and keep it as clean as possible throughout the process, and I'll show you how to maintain that. But the inflate brush is notoriously destructive to your mesh. If you'd see what's happening here, it displaces your base mesh pretty hard and causes a lot of buckling and folding in your mesh, which will show up inside of your normal map, which will look awful. So let's do an inflate pass. It's looking okay. I wish I had a lot more geometry to work with right now, but I don't want to move up from where I'm at. Really trying to mine my edges. You'll see me actually erasing some edges just so I can get the inflate in there. Because if I do too hard, that's going to cause an issue in the normal map. I'm trying to avoid that. Oddly enough, though, what works really well after you do this is a pass with a pinch brush, and then I'll do a final pass with the rake brush. I'd say in the time that I have right now, I'm not completely dissatisfied with this. But I think it's clear enough for you guys, the process that I'm going through. It's just a matter of sort of being a little bit tighter than I'm being right now. So now that I've done that, I'm going to do a light smooth. And this is just to even out my topology, because right now my topology is getting stretched in this area. I can either do it that way, or I can step down to a lower subdivision, and we'll see what's happened here. Right, everything is sort of stretched out in areas, and I'm going to turn back on my symmetry, and I can try and do something to help that, which is smooth out my mesh, this lower subdivision, which isn't smoothing my higher subdivision detail. My higher subdivision detail is still stored in its entirety. And then what I'm going to do, since this is all nice and straight now, is I'm going to reproject my higher subdivisions. So that's in the subtool palette down at the bottom, reproject higher subdivisions. And that can help you even back out your mesh. This could take a moment. So any questions on anything I'm showing you right now? It's all pretty straightforward, but I figure we need something to eat up the time. It's either that or I start telling jokes, and you don't want me to tell jokes. I'm horrible. I maybe have like 2 jokes, and they're awful, and I would never say them on a recording. I mean, it's as bad as, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Pulp Fiction. It's as bad as the catch-up joke. Both of my jokes are as bad as the catch-up joke. One is for, like, kindergartners. The other one's like completely offensive. But if this was 32-bit or ZBrush 4R6, I would have completely crashed by now. So I'm very thankful. There we go. So that's evened out my topology a little bit more. At least I have straight edges that are moving this way and that way. If I go down to my lowest subdivision, it should be relatively straight. Right? This is, it's a little uneven here, but it's not going to kill me. It's better than it was. So I'm going to step back up, and I should have better distribution of my polys here now. That's one of the problems like the inflate brush is it stretches out your polys. So let's go in with the rake, and let's see if I can even hold any detail from the rake right now. Yeah, it's just too light. You know what? For the sake of the sculpt, I'm going to live dangerously, and I'm going to subdivide one more time. It's going to bring me up to 20 million polys. Look at that. 20 million polys and no crash. Let's just save to be safe. How many of you guys have worked on a mesh that has 60 million, 40 million, 80 million polys on it yet? And how did your machines hold up? Just out of curiosity. It was like one of the first things I did when I got the beta. I was like, how far can I go? I got up to a tool that had 350 million polys on it, and then I just couldn't move anything, and it just crashed. All right, so actually let's do a pinch pass first, just to pull some of these fibers closer together. clean up some of my line work. At 20 million polys, I would definitely not reproject higher subdivisions. But if you're working at 20 million polys, you shouldn't have to. What I mean by that is that at 20 million polys, we should just be working on the finest detail on the mesh and we wouldn't be displacing that much geometry. Although I might be with this pinch brush right now because I didn't do it at the lowest or the lower subdivision before I generated this high subdivision. Because I wasn't intending on going this high. All right, rake brush. And let's bring down the intensity from 100 down to like 30. One thing when you're working with the rake brush is you want to keep dynamic draw size on. Most of your hairs are about the same thickness. You do have finer hair and thicker hair, but there's not much variance, and it looks a little, I don't know, it doesn't look good when all the fibers are different thicknesses. I want to get some twisting across these bunches of hair, so I'm not following directly along it, I'm cutting across it. I want to make sure I'm blending out here. You know, I wish this worked, this rake brush worked more like a real clay rake. This would make some things just much easier. I mean, it's an approximation, but it's not really the same thing. You know, and despite my best efforts, I still got some lump sculpt in here. I was being a little too loose with it. Lump sculpt, it happens. Like right now I'm seeing some nice moments in this hair, but I'm not seeing any great moments overall. I think from a distance, it's reading meh. It's gonna need a couple more passes to go through and sort of tighten it up. So let's see. Let's go ahead and now go in Z sub. I'm going to start taking away areas. All right, I want to get onto fiber mesh next, so I'm not going to over labor this. But is this enough to give you guys a start on sculptural hair? At least give you a little bit of some ideas for doing sculptural hair? I think what I'm missing right now is a lot of blending of my platelets. So everything is very sectional and it's all very much the same size. I need to randomize it a bit. All right, I'm going to move forward. I think that's enough to show you where to go. You know, I'm going to come in and just start blending things out. Like Jordu says, I'm trying to have some of those graceful moments. Maybe it's just the awkwardness of my slow internet connection. All right. So there's something for you to run with and play with, and like I said, you know, there's a few brushes that you can, you know, mainly I want to just feed you some ideas so that you know where to go or have somewhere to go. All right.